Everything we have worked to leads to this moment right here. It is engine dyno time. It's cool to propose how much horsepower this thing can make. We know it certainly consumes a lot of fuel, but we need to prove it. Tyson went over to Wasp. They were able to make a new starter for us, but these increase the power about 15%. No battery packs, but 24 volts, 2 starters. 200 RPM. That actually went way smoother than I was expecting. Those guys are strong. The only concern we have is that, you know, these are really far away, but they're hooked to the big D-mount hooks, anchors in the floor, so feel good about that. We have half a mile, 1.2 miles, but it's back little roads for us, so we don't have to accelerate a lot. Joel is tied up for the morning, so that means us guys are gonna head directly to the engine dyno, and I am gonna film like I used to film. We only have to make a little trek about a mile away to unload it for the very first time this thing is gonna be engine dynoed with the turbos. My chariot awaits. We are here. This is gonna be an intense process, and you know, we're not even sure if it'll fully be allowed on the dyno. If Bob thinks it's not safe, it's his dyno, it's not mine. So I'm gonna do everything in my power to make sure that all of the things that he is worried about is handled. There she is. It looks like some of the biggest concerns we have right now are A, starting it, which we've simplified with the even higher power starters. Having the ability to, you know, connect it to the dyno is actually gonna be a little bit of a challenge. And then finally, Bob's biggest concern is that there's so much shit with all the intercoolers and all that stuff in there that if there was a fire, that he couldn't get to it. He couldn't address the issue. And so very, very genuine, valid concerns. And so I have a feeling that we're gonna spend part of today gutting stuff. It's 8 a.m. right now. I don't anticipate seeing this thing fire up until noon. Test number 1. Can it fit through the door? It's in the room, holy shit. So why am I at the shop instead of at the dyno where we should be making tons of horsepower? Well, we can't make tons of horsepower because there's an engine on this side and there's a engine dyno on this side, and they don't want to connect together. I've got this piece drawn up, and so the idea is that little sliver of a ring sits inside the one piece, and then it sits on top of this on the inner ring, and then the bolt holes go through for all 6 of these passing through. So it's really just a hub-centric ring, and then it also brings the piece out so our starter can fit on this. And so it is a moment to undo this from the jaws, and we'll see if it fits between these pieces. Yeah. Oh, that was a beautiful sound. And then ultimately this one fits onto, oh ho 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 ho. And we clean up those little burrs and everything, and yeah, that is a centered dyno. Data is king, and independent data is really the pillar of what I believe in. And so this app has nothing to do with 8 Sleep, but you can see the trend ever since I installed the 8 Sleep unit at the apartment. Look at that, 100%, 100%, 100%, 100%. And then during the week, while I'm here, not so much. The pod is really a high-tech mattress topper that goes on top of your existing mattress and controls the temperature, and even has the option for a base that goes underneath your mattress and can adjust elevation of your head and your feet. And the temperature control can go all the way down to 55 degrees Fahrenheit, all the way up to 110, which is where Erica loves it, apparently. She loves to warm herself up a lot in her half of the bed. My half stays more average at 77. It has been clinically proven to show that 8 Sleep will increase your deep sleep. It'll increase your quality sleep by up to an hour in each night. And my results
anecdotally show that very thing. I mean, right here, deep sleep, increase 50%, that's restorative, and it helps me stay on my A game for all the crazy things that happen here at the shop. If you're interested in getting better sleep, head to 8sleep.com/RobDahm and use RobDahm as the discount code to get $350 off your very own Pod 4 Ultra. Shipping is available to many countries worldwide, so to learn more, go to 8sleep.com/RobDahm. Now that Joel is here, I can finally have hands-free camera movement. We just made that one piece on the CNC that worked for that. I ran a wire and it was super long and annoying to run, but it actually ended up being just barely long enough. 2/3 of it is out there. It's gonna connect into the cam hub, and long story short, we're gonna have our dash, so that way we can see what is going on in there. I'm gonna have the buttons over here, and then my laptop doing whatever it can do as well. So we're gonna have a full house in here, but his throttle is actually gonna connect. I don't know which one's which, but one of these is gonna mechanically actuate the throttle, pushing on my pedal in there. Hopefully it's like a quick pull and we get a number, and hopefully that number is higher than 50. The guys are working miracles getting this to fit on that. As you can tell, it's very custom, but also needs to handle so much torque. It's been stressful, but we now have the engine in the spot it needs to be in. With the day raging on, the prep work is of course the hard work. And so what we're hoping for now is 1 or 2 pulls just basically naturally aspirated, where the boost is actually being created by the turbos, but it's just 100% being evaporated into the air. Kind of validating what's been rumored or said for many years. We can see this thing potentially in action, but I think we're gonna run close to out of time. So we will see how this whole thing plays out. I'm gonna make sure that my laptop can connect to the Wi-Fi and that the rest of everything connects. Dash is working perfectly fine. We're reading all of that. Let me see if I can connect to the Wi-Fi. There's a 12 rotor. So there we are. The Wi-Fi works perfectly. Now we should be able to see throttle position. Look at that. I think we're pretty much ready to fire it up. Good to do more announcements. We just did one new starter and it fired up that quickly, so very excited for that. It's been a pain in the ass, and like we're so behind, I was afraid that we're gonna be sitting here starting it for 2 hours. It got up to 4,000 RPM like our goal was, and then the dyno started loading the engine down. The engine started building boost at 4,000 RPM, and then went lean, and nothing hurt or anything, but it went lean and died because it was just running out of fuel. And you can see it was running rich until the dyno started loading the engine and then went lean. So keep adding fuel, but this engine under load is, I wasn't expecting to build boost at 4,000 RPM. So this is one bad mother. Semi-P over here. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, so at this point we're good. If you want to ease into the 4,000. That's insane to have several pounds of boost at 4,000 RPM on a 94 millimeter turbo 3. We're not normally making boost that low, so I closed the gate to try and aggressively get the turbos to spool. We have boost by 4,000 RPM. The computer's just like, I know you said close, but I'm going to open, because it doesn't open until 6 to prevent it from building boost. So that's insane. But the most important thing here is this Italian flag. All 3 banks are getting roughly the same amount of air. So my calculations and everything I did at night says that this whole engine's getting the same amount of fuel. It's a little rich, like it's close to not firing, ethanol that thick, but this is all good. This right here is the only funny, like, bad thing. That is one rotor out of 12 that the plates just were too rough, and I had to put it back in, and so that one doesn't have as much compression, if any compression, as the other one. So it's 11/12 of a motor, but it's still crunching. This is the end of day 1 for us. For you guys, the party keeps continuing, but we made a lot of progress where we actually dynoed the turbo 12 rotor. It made over 750 foot-pounds of torque at 3,500 RPM with the wastegate wide open, no boost. That's validating what Tyson made claims about forever ago, seeing that this thing is just ready to absolutely rock our socks. With the new Wasp starters, they're able to use way more power, and so then our cheap AutoZone batteries are failing us. Bob has been beyond accommodating and has moved one of his other dyno sessions for tomorrow to Sunday so that we can finish what we've started. Day 2 at the dyno, really the beginning of day 1 emotionally, but we are abusing and using these starters. So this plunger looking thing, there's power on this side and there's starter on this side, and when you hear the click inside of a starter is actually this popping down. I'm gonna do the makeup tutorial thing. This relay is
not straight at all.
No, it is pretty damaged. We're gonna switch some parts out and get the 2 good starters over to 12 volts instead of 24. Basically, we're juggling until we get the right starting. The hardest thing about this thing has been starting it, not running it. This engine runs smooth. We can't have it easy. Obviously, you know, more risk, more reward, but our problem isn't even the engine. It's not the turbos, it's not my tuning, it's starting the damn motor. We melted several starters, even just getting to this point, and we melted even more. So we're gonna try every single possible option we can to get starters, to get this thing back to the dyno as quick as possible. I opened this before Joel got here, but I want him to see it on camera first, because it's the first chance him ever saying, "Damn, Rob, that's huge."
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's the starter?
So this is the starter.
What? I don't think that's gonna work.
I opened it, I was like, holy shit.
That's the diesel starter?
This is a diesel starter. So this is one of those we aren't asking anymore. See how much bigger those teeth are and how many more teeth there are? That means this thing can probably spin a flywheel really fucking fast.
That's gonna look crazy on the back of there.
Yeah. Let's just hold this up for comparison. Oh my god.
That's not as crazy as I thought. Yeah, it is. It's gonna spin it faster.
It sure as fuck better spin it fast. One of these can clearly outdo all of our existing starters. The question is, can we make it work? If I can get 300 RPM repeatedly, this is our best chance.
Whoa.
Oh my god, this thing's like very aggressive. The diesel starter is an incredible idea. The problem is it's too big. Not the physical size of that thing, I mean that was massive, but the teeth on the starter are a different pitch than even the larger pitch that you can get on the flywheel. So we literally can't make them work together. There's no variety of things unless we make our own gears, which is not within our wheelhouse of abilities right now. So we are stuck using something kind of in between. So diesel starter's out, but you know what's in? Also the diesel starter, just a little bit smaller. just went to Wasp. The guys have been nothing but the most supportive on our weird ass adventure of a one-of-one type of engine. These are the, I believe, actually probably the final step for what we need. They custom machined a gear that now customers, you guys could buy. If you needed this, you probably have a 12 rotor. But this unit is capable of handling 24 volts properly because it's all welded instead of the other units don't need to be because they're not meant to be 24 volts. But we're going to start these off at 12 volts. We do have some work cut out for us, but at the end of the day, that is not much bigger. It's heavier. It's definitely got some more mass to it, but it's got a bigger tooth. So this is 13 instead of 9. And then it's got this planetary gear set up right here. So it does reduce it. So we'll hope it doesn't reduce it too much. Look at the difference in size between what Wasp offered and what we were trying to do. Just not on the same level. And I mean that positively towards Wasp. This is overkill, and I'm okay with that, but
It's like 80 pounds.
yeah, it's 80 pounds, and we don't have the flywheel for it. We'd have to adapt like a diesel military tank flywheel or something to it. They actually made these teeth so we can use a standard flywheel. Wasp has even more options if we need to go up, but the idea is that what they're making could work for anybody. So I'm gonna work on the code to get this machined into here. And then, like he said to me, this pattern now allows them to make a bigger gear, and they can offset it and still keep it in the same bell housing and do all that work if we need to get to that point. On the other hand, I also got to pick up my baby. This is something I've been wanting for a long time, and it starts the IndyCar massively. That is beefy. Now what's really funny is he pointed out that this is essentially the same motor.
No way.
So now we know that, okay, we're in the right range. So this one's got double gear reduction. And the reason why it's got this area machined, the guys over in England did this, is this is gear reduced. So it's spinning it, we'll say 5,000 RPM, 3,000 RPM, reduces it down to this. But then this gear with the flywheel reduces it down even more to get to whatever, 200, 300 RPM. This has to do that inside of here. Reduce it and then reduce it again because there is no flywheel, because you're spinning the crankshaft of the motor right there. We're done starting, but we're now starting all of our cool shit. If I don't make it in YouTube, I can always be a fashion art designer. No? Okay. This piece was made last night for these new beefy starters. Threaded it on there, and you can see where this is going. I just machined the negative of this right there, and so it took out a lot of material. So one of the things I learned from Ethan doing this was when Ethan made this flat, the problem is it can move side to side, and so when it moves side to side, that changes the radius of the center of this hole to that one. So making this round, you can't move it any other way. So put it in just like that. Now that's showing us it's gonna get really weird. Thankfully I don't have to cut all this material off. This should be a 1/4 inch lower than this, and then out 0.17 inches. I did the same thing on both sides and got the math done right, is that both of them had little pieces left right there, and then this spot looks identical on both sides, so you know that depth wise I matched the energy on both sides. So take this one and it actually kind of locks into place right there, and then this one, as you probably have guessed, it locks into place the opposite way.
Wow.
And then Rob has brought over symmetrical, squared off. That's pretty sick. So it's time for him to weld these up. We're talking guesses now, so I'm not going to use math. I'm just going to go with my heart on this. I'm going to guess one of these with one of those, single 12 volts. I'm going to guess 180 RPM.
That's usually what we get normally with,
Yeah, with everything
3.
else. Yeah, so,
I'm gonna play devil's advocate. I'm gonna say 150.
yeah.
170.
Oh,
Okay.
splitting it. All right,
Yeah.
all right.
I don't know what I think.
I don't think any of us care. That's pretty fast. That's pretty fast. What I'm doing is I'm looking at the timestamp right here. And so at 4:85, we'll say, that hole is, these two bolts are lining up, right at 485. Then I go for a full spin again, and it's 518. So I did 485 minus 518, reverse that, 0.3 seconds, 0.33 seconds, so 0.33 seconds. So that means every second, that's 3 revolutions. So I'll take 3 revolutions per second times 60 seconds. That was 180 RPM. Now the spark plugs are out of it at the moment, so that is actually going to make a difference, but that's insane. So I think it's time to hook up the second starter also at the same and see what the 2 starters together do if it speeds that process up. So we are now hooking each starter up to their own individual 12-volt battery to see if it goes faster than that 180 RPM.
That sounded fast.
Promising. That seems pretty promising. It's with humility and excitement, a little bit of horniness. I tell you that was 215 RPM. So with 12 volts, smooth, clean. This is like starting any other vehicle in our lineup, even though it is one-off, the weirdest thing ever. We can now fire this thing up every single time with minimal effort. So we are currently going to try one starter. The other one's still hooked up, but we're going to only activate one starter on 24 volts.
That was fast.
Whoa. That was 5 1/4 times a second. And I already know, with the basic aspect of this, 316
Yo, I was right.
RPM. One starter on 24 volts does 300, and that'll instantly start this thing. Huge thanks to Wasp for putting up with us melting tons of their smaller starters that work for every other car beautifully. But you can tell that if they have this starter for this engine spinning at 300 RPM, they can start just about anything. Why are we here right now? Because this looks kind of repetitive, and it in some ways felt that way, but not for us emotionally. We know the engine runs, but making sure it runs the night before the big dyno with everything. That way we don't get there and we look like assholes. So we wanted to make sure that the engine will turn over, make sure that everything's plugged in this way, because we can keep it fresh in our mind, plug, unplug, move, swap, and go. And there's stuff, sure enough, 1 or 2 cables like set here and moved there. So right now I think it's as simple as going, we're gonna do one starter with 24 volts, and it's on ethanol. No preheating the block, as you saw, it's 60 degrees. So this is a dream scenario for if it works here, it's going to work there. Oh my God. That's sick.
What does that mean, Rob?
That means it's dyno time.